Somebody
It's
should
not
have.
that high up here.
We're ready for you.
I proved them wrong.
But who's laughing now?
Good afternoon. My name is Shawn Jack, and the article I chose was Change Management, the People Side of Change by Jeffrey Hyde and Timothy Creasy. And the points that I took out of it that stuck out the most to me, to start off, you're dealing with people. And when you're dealing with people, the way to achieve successful change is clear, transparent communication. It has to be comprehensive. Everybody has to understand it from the top to the bottom, and that's the way to get the best results. Because even if you have a great plan, if you can't communicate it to the people that need to execute the plan, then it's just a good plan and it's not going to work. So the next thing I took from it was the top level management support, as Mr. Ross was talking about. And the reason, well, let me define the top level management. Top level management consists of boards, directors, presidents, vice presidents, CEOs, general managers, and senior managers, etc. They develop goals, strategic plans, and company policies and make decisions about the direction of the business. Therefore, they have to buy in. They just can't listen to it and say, okay, we'll do it. They have to buy in, and they have to be forward, and they have to be actively working to implement these changes. They have to be behind them or they're not gonna work. So you need to get these people involved, and they have to be all the way on board. And these are some of the reasons why. They control the money. So you may have great ideas for changes, but if they don't support it and you need the money to fund these changes, if they don't give you the money, then the project can go forward. They also control if you can get the training. So maybe some of the changes that need to be made is just different training, but they can authorize the company to pay for the training. And once again, if they're not for it, then that change won't go forward. One of the reasons people resist change because they wonder if it's going to increase their workload. So the top level management, they can assure, or they can assure the workers that even if the workload does go up, it is only temporary, or they can make sure that it doesn't go up. They also, when you're talking about change, people worry about job security. So if they're going around telling people, we're not here to cut jobs, we're not here to cut workloads or hours, that just that allows everybody to breathe easy and be more receptive to the change. So there you got job security. And power cut. I'll put that out there because, as I believe Professor Greer and Mr. Ross were saying, some people worry about losing power as changes occur. So they can either ease that or confirm it with people and let them know, your role's gonna change, but you're still important. Michael, what does it mean to be engaged? Since you just got engaged, what does it mean?
Double entendre there.
Okay, well, being engaged is you're entering into you're agreeing to a commitment. You're agreeing to
Look at that, she's already put words in your mouth. You're not even engaged to her.
a life with that person. To grow old with that person, to take over the world with that person. You're agreeing to become one.
You're gonna obey
A
that person.
combination of a
The woman and
relationship,
the
a
man.
partnership.
Okay.
Thanks, Michael.
Well, the reason I put this up here because Mr. Ross was talking about it with the railroad company was the top level management has to be engaged. They have to be visible. So as he mentioned, the new CEO went around and he met everybody, or the lady for Apple, she went around and met everybody, and they showed their face, and that does eases people's anxiety. And also, if they're out and they're also enacting the changes themselves, like people see them doing the changes, and then it makes it, if more people buy in that way, you're just not somebody sitting in the big office telling everybody what to do, but you're not even following. So that's a big thing, and it creates a trickle down effect from top level to mid level to the workers. and you have to have the mid-level pushing it to the lower level. So everybody has to be engaged, but it starts with the top, and they have to be engaged, or it's not gonna work. Can anybody tell me what this means? Mr. Ross said it earlier. Mr. Ross said it earlier. Mr.
What's in it for me?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so,
Oh, Kevin's like, that's my sand.
so this is for the employees. They have to have an understanding, what is it in it for them when it comes to the changes. I think as Kendra mentioned earlier, they, people wanna feel like they're a part of the change, so they have to be involved in what the changes are gonna be, and they're more receptive to it. So this article is dealing with people at every level, so, I mean, people want to know, how is it going to benefit them? Are they going to get training? Are they going to get more money? Are they going to get more, a higher position? And in another aspect, they have to know that if these changes are made, it could don't happen. They could lose their jobs, or they could get their hours cut. So it could be, what's in it for you is you're going to keep your job, or you're going to get put in a different department, but you're going to keep a job. So people are get on board when they understand what they're gonna gain from it, or what they could lose if they don't go along with the change. Yeah, my next point is, that I got from the article, was make precise decisions. I know Michael being in military, there's always a new change. They're always changing something every week. So as a worker, I know for myself, I wouldn't go with all the changes because I wanted to see how serious they were. So they would come down with something and I would ignore it. And if there was no follow-up, then I would say, nobody's serious about this. I'm happy I didn't waste my time. So I think that happens in all levels of business. When in the beginning of a change, everybody's gonna have resistance because nobody wants to start doing something and then the company says, okay, we're not gonna do that no more. Then you feel like, okay, we wasted our time. We had something good and we changed it for no reason. So as a company, you can't make a whole bunch of changes, just try everything. You have to make sure everything is precise and planned, and you're gonna see it through because you worked out all the scenarios you can think of that could come up that would deter you to go back to what you used to do. And my example is when the Marine Corps instituted the tracksuit as part of the physical training gear. This is the traditional green on green. So these are olive drab shorts and there's olive drab shirt, and you put on running shoes and you go out and you exercise. So I was in supply administration, so we acquisition and we property management, and we work with the budget some. And what happened was the Marine Corps came out right before I was getting out, and they said everybody's gonna get these tracksuits. And since everybody's used to all new things all the time that never get followed through, they we had to send out an email to all the section leaders and tell them we need your guys' names and their sizes. The Marine Corps is paying for it, it's not coming out your pocket, but you gotta get this suit. So first week, 20% of the section leaders turned the list in, and they were in our supply shop, and they were excited about it. We're getting a free suit. So they were on board with it, mostly because it was free, but they were on board with the change. 80% of the other people are here. Like, we're green on green. If you give me that suit, I'm not gonna wear it anyway because I like what we have already. So what ended up happening was the Marine Corps was serious about this. So then the next week, a directive came out and it said by the end of the week, everybody better have their numbers turned in so we can get this going, or a lot of people are gonna be in trouble. And then our shop was overflowed with section leaders turning this information in. So that was a precise change, and they meant it. So everybody was on board with it. So when the resistance came from the bottom level, because they're saying we're used to changes, that being introduced to changes that there's no follow-up and nobody's really serious about it, we can just ignore it. So, like I said, for me, I've done this too. If I have to see how serious you are about it to go along with it. I'm not gonna just go with every little, every little thing, and then you're gonna turn around and change it on me, because that gets tiresome to people. And it does. The article also mentions people losing. They start to lose faith in the company when they're always trying something. So you have to have a lot of successful changes for them to believe, okay, they're introducing these changes, but every time they do, things get better, and they never go back on them, and they're always good for us. And not that they're trying stuff that fails, and then we go back to the old stuff. So you gotta make, so it mentions precise changes. And lastly, there's gonna be roadblocks to changes, and like sometimes a good change might come up, but a company might not have the money to change it. So once again, you have to communicate it clearly that it's a good change. We want to do it. We're going to do it, but we need time to get the money. We need time to get the resources or develop the relationships. So you just have to keep people happy and engaged and content. You have to make sure that when the roadblocks come up, you explain to them why the roadblocks came up for a change happening or not happening. Because if it just doesn't happen for no reason, people they don't feel heard and they stop wanting to be involved in change, and they might even start looking for another job. So those are the things. Those are the big things I pulled out of it, out of the article. That's it.
Really quick, because there was a lot to that article. I don't know if everybody, I mean, you guys aren't reading all of them, but that Hyatt article is actually an appendix in a book. Got some great stuff in it. And so you talked about the changes, what's in it for me, the obstacles. The question that I think was a good one that they asked was, what would you do differently on your next project? So let me ask you that, Shawn. What would you do differently on that rollout if you were to kind of orchestrate it again with the military shorts?
I don't think they made it clear that it was an addition to the physical training gear.
Mm-hmm.
They just made it seem like we're going to the suits. So everybody was thinking like, we're gonna get rid of our green on green shorts and shirt. Like, no way. And to make it worse, the Air Force had them first. So the Marines are like, we don't want no stupid Air Force gear. So
how do you think that could have been changed?
well, you can't change the psyche on that one. Air Force had it first. Marine Corps doesn't want it.
But
the guys don't want it.
They were Marine Corps tracksuits. They weren't Air Force tracksuits.
They had the tracksuit.
But
So
the Air Force had tracksuits first.
For years, Marines made fun of the Air Force guys in the tracksuits.
It's still do.
Yeah, and he's
Still do.
so when it was like.
But those Marine pansies have tracksuits now.
So,
There's
I
still
think
stragglers for that too.
yeah, people still resist them, and because as far as because the Air Force.
But
had
if
them
you
first.
like, I wave a wand, you're in charge. How do you, as the change leader, get that to be more readily adopted without force, without the directive?
So there you go.
Maybe a nicer design.
Well, no, that's a good answer. So,
Maybe a nicer design.
are the Air Force ones exactly the same? They just have they're blue and they say Air Force.
They're pretty similar. So maybe
Are they Nike? Are they General GI?
I don't even know
issuers?
who makes those. I didn't get one.
You think if they issued Nike tracksuits?
Yeah, if they did have a Nike tracksuit,
Oh, man.
it would have been like
Oh,
everybody
man.
would have wanted it.
Oh man.
Or even if you put an Adidas on it or anything. they would've
Okay,
wanted it.
so maybe what the military needed to do was just license a logo. I don't know if they're even allowed to, but I'm saying, what if they did? But right away, you're both like, oh, I'd take that. Then you have a limited edition, like Oakley. I know Oakley does a lot of military stuff.
Right.
What if it was an Oakley tracksuit?
That would work too.
Like the roles that I listed on my slide, it like said that basically like someone could add in their voice and they would be able to act as a leader or someone underneath like what was it,
Sponsor?
not the sponsor, but
The
the
target?
last one? The targets,
Yeah.
even they have a voice where if they were to tell the person up that
Right.
that's their opinion, like, basically people are able to have more than one role.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one too, because in the military, it's traditionally not, we want to listen to you.
Nobody wants to listen to the
Yeah.
lower level guys. Nobody wants to hear the
No,
lower
absolutely
level
not.
guys.
And even though they say that they want to listen, a
No, they
lot of
don't. You just
the
have
higher
to-
brass doesn't even want to listen.
You
You
better
know,
say
they
the
want to
written-
say that they're going to listen.
You say the written answer.
Yeah.
You say like the blanket statement.
But even in the military, even mid-level managers, mid-managers, that, you know, nobody wants to listen to those people either. So, I mean, it's not. you
Well,
know.
they study for years which camouflage group's going to be great. They make a decision, and they send that camo out, and they're like, hey, everybody has to have this kind of camo now. And we're going to make the transition to the new blue PDUs or whatever, you know, like whatever it is. But they just make decisions, and it's not like, hey, what did you want to do?
No.
It's what do they decide to do, and then they're going to implement. So the military is a little different. I mean, there's people that it's literally life or death, so I can almost understand. But like we were talking about before, there is toxic leadership. There's that new book that just came out about how maybe that isn't the best way to approach, even in the military, and that it generates people coming out feeling like they have to be dictatorial in civilian life, when in reality, you know, it's like the abuse cycle. They say that somebody that gets abused becomes an abuser, and I know we're all laughing at that, but it's like, it's how you're raised. You're like, well, that's how you get it done.
Right.
And so, you know, people beat me down, and I did my work, and we didn't die. So I'm gonna beat people down, and they're gonna get their work done, and I'm not gonna die. And so there's this, I call it in academia, I think I've said this before, but I call it academic hazing, where I think that a lot of professors sometimes get caught up in, well, that's how I did it. That's what I had to go through. That doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it even reasonable. That's
Right.
stupid at that point. That's just saying, oh, okay, well, that's what we did in the past. So any other questions, or the good job in that article? That was a great article.
Actually, that happens a lot in coaching. The parents want.
The parents do
Well,
what?
I did this when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, we didn't have smartphones and Twitter in the 80s.
Yeah.
Probably was a
Well,
more-
and you know, they
little
would
more
run
committed.
sprints till you puke.
Yeah,
Maybe
you do
we
that.
have a science-based approach that we know that we can
Yeah.
get them to be faster and breathe better
Right.
without doing that.
But there's a law-based approach. You go to jail.
Yeah.
If one kid says he made me, run till I was throwing up, you're gonna go to jail and you're gonna get fired, and then the district is gonna get sued. So it's a different world. People
Uh-huh.
were just suing everybody, and now everything's a case.
It's very, very,
So it's
very
a-
interesting.
You have to find a different way to do it to condition.
Uh-huh.
But the parents are like, no, run those kids into the ground. Do this to them, do that to them, and then you're saying, well, I could go to jail for that.
That's fine. Just do it anyway.
Just do it anyway.
It's not me doing it. To my kids, I mean.
And then you're like, you're telling me to be crueler to your kid than you are.
Yeah. Well, and you know, it is really one of those things where it's a change. And so as a coach, you're managing not just the target the player, but the target the parent. And here's the thought process. Or maybe they think you're running them too hard. You're like, look at what I'm not running. Or
Right.
maybe they want you to run North Carolina every time they come down the court. You know, well, we ran North Carolina and it was always the best play.
Right.
And you know, why don't you have somebody that shoots the three in the corner? Everybody has a reason, even down to basketball. Okay, and those changes really do get resisted. So, anything else you want to talk about?
No, that's it.
Okay, so what I would like to do, we got a few more minutes here. Good